Party leaders roll into Eastleigh as the PM ups the ante on Tory campaign. By-election gets personal.
It's a gaffe, it's an insult to the schools.
And wins on weekend, touches down. Hello, but before all that, Boris Johnson has today added his considerable weight to the Tory campaign ahead of next week's Eastleigh election. The Mayor of London, who hit the campaign trail with Conservative candidate Maria Hutchins, branded the Lib Dems as great big quivering jellies. Here is Mr Johnson speaking to our reporter Matt Spencer just moments ago.
Yeah. Hello. Quick question.
Yeah, getting you've got to look at the basic choices between the Conservatives have a plan for getting on with improving the economy and getting people into work and sorting out the problems we got. Yeah. And the Liberal Democrats, who are great big quivering jellies, great big wobbling jellies of indecision and vacancy and all the rest of it.
And after talking about the Lib Dems, he turned his sights to Labour.
The interesting thing about this election, actually, is how the Labour Party is nowhere. You know, this is mid-term, isn't it? And you'd expect Miliband to be romping away with this by-election. Labour came second in 1994. Where are they? They're nowhere. They're nowhere. They're being exterminated, obliviated. Where are they? I think that is the mystery of the Eastleigh by-election. The dog that didn't bark is Labour. Where Labour? Okay. They have vanished.
Boris started the day in a local Asda, meeting and greeting staff. From here, he headed to Fair Oak, where he was canvassing alongside Conservative candidate Maria Hutchins. Here he took the time to visit a few small local businesses.
Sign of enthusiasm, don't kill it. Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice day to be campaigning.
Fantastic day, thank you.
Looking forward to a 2015 PM ballot, Boris?
Nice to see you, bye-bye.
Matt Spencer, Winchester News Online, Eastleigh.
And Boris Johnson wasn't the only big figure to enter the fray this week, as both Prime Minister David Cameron and Labour leader Ed Miliband came to town to support their candidates. But as the accusations against the candidates start to fly, what impact will the visit of their party leaders make on the most crucial by-election of this Parliament so far? Our political editor, Lewis O'Brien, takes us through the week when the campaign really started to heat up.
The Prime Minister side by side of his next Member of Parliament, or the next thorn in his side. David Cameron visited Eastleigh this week in support of Conservative candidate Maria Hutchins. He chose the headquarters of DIY giant B&Q to hammer home the Tory message of getting young people back into work. This in the midst of the closure of the Ford Transit plant last year, just a mile down the road.
We've got to compete on the basis of high skills, high training, high value.
But he was not the only party leader in town. Labour leader Ed Miliband came to fly the red flag of support to candidate John O'Farrell.
And does everybody know John? Hello, I've been on as many doors as I can in the time available.
Miliband chose a cafe to speak to local voters and to push the Labour campaign. But there is a long way to go until the Labour campaign in this part of the country amounts to more than a storm in a teacup. Lewis O'Brien, Winchester News Online, East.
As the by-election reaches its second week, the campaign trail has seen a radical shift from campaigning about policies to personal attacks between party candidates. Luke Garrett has been keeping track of the dirtier side of the politics.
This is what it looks like when celebrity mixes with local politics.
Thank you for coming, everyone. My name's John O'Farrell. I'm the Labour candidate for Eastleigh.
But in Eastleigh, it's not all smiles and balloons. The political circus took a more aggressive turn this week when the candidates stopped campaigning about their own issues and started battling over criticisms about state schools made by the Conservative candidate Maria Hutchins. Hutchins said over the weekend that finding an appropriate education for her son would be impossible in the state system. This statement was slammed by much of the Labour Party in Eastleigh in a strange publicity stunt in the town centre.
I was disappointed by what Maria Hutchins said about state education. If you're aspiring to be the MP for a town, the representative of a constituency, you need to big up the schools. You need to be positive about them, not say they're not good enough for your kid.
I think most people will feel that she's terribly out of touch with how most people's lives are if that's her attitude towards the local schools.
Labour seems to think that their candidate, the entertainer, has a chance of winning the seat in Eastleigh and are pulling out the big guns of the party despite previous polls showing that Labour only had a 9% share in the votes.
The point about an election and what makes it very special and very important is each individual person, when they vote, when they get the ballot paper, they make that choice. What we're saying is that we have got an excellent candidate and we've also got strong policies that would work in this area, and actually the Conservatives and the Lib Dems have let people down.
So the supporters are on the march, and even with such a small share of the votes, they're hoping that celebrity will be enough to keep them from feeling deflated. Luke Garrett, Winchester News Online, Eastleigh.
The Liberal Democrats are trying to move past the loss of the Eastleigh seat following the resignation of disgraced Chris Huhne and drag the debate back to their party's plans for the area. Deputy Head of the Lib Dems, Simon Hughes, calls it a new beginning for the party. Ben Hatton reports.
The by-election focus is now firmly on local issues, and some parties are happier that way, forgetting why the whole election was called in the first place. The Lib Dem top guns want to repair some of the damage former Eastleigh MP Chris Huhne has caused the party's reputation.
And the reality is Chris Huhne has owned up to having not told the truth in relation to an offence some years ago. He's pleaded guilty in the courts and he's going to be sentenced. Mike Thornton is a new person, a new chapter, a new beginning.
Well, Chris Huhne has pleaded guilty, and I'm not here to pass judgment. That's a matter for the court. What I do say is this, though, that the local Liberal Democrats, especially on the council, have a long history of service here.
The Lib Dems are keen to forget the past and bring the campaign back to local issues.
I think you have to be very, very careful about ensuring you preserve the green spaces and you don't, by allowing uncontrolled gravel extraction, to destroy some of those very spaces you're trying to preserve.
They may be big on gravel, but they'll need a lot of it to smooth the path to Parliament. Ben Hatton, Winchester News Online, Eastleigh.
Two former Liberal Democrats have turned their back on the party and are now siding with the UKIP in the upcoming election. The ex-Lib Dem councillors Glyn Davies-Dear and Andy Moore are supporting UKIP candidate Diane James in the by-election. Ellen Millard has the story.
The official joining of UKIP.
Here I go, sign my life away.
This is the moment when former Mayor Glyn Davies-Dear joined UKIP, turning his back on the Lib Dems. Joining him was councillor Andy Moore, who said he was also disillusioned with his former party.
The Lib Dems have shot their bolt. They're not the party that I joined. They're not truthful, they're not trustworthy, and they deserve to be got rid of.
Strong words and a minor victory for UKIP, but is it enough to make a difference?
For 2 weeks, our reporters have integrated themselves into the party headquarters of the four major contenders. Here's the latest from some of those reporters on the campaign trail.
It has been another week of a maybe more intense campaign for the Conservatives. The party seems to have been under a lot of hit lately over a statement the candidate Maria Hutchins made earlier last week, where she stated that she could not send her son to a state school. There has been a lot of backlash from the people and opposition from other parties, but I must say that she is not slowing down as she has continued with her campaign, and in fact she was at a protest later that week where she fought for one of the policies that she believes in, which is preserving the green belt.
Today, candidate Diane James will be visiting the Ford factory to see workers who have lost their jobs after the factory moved outside of the UK. This is one of the main issues that UKIP campaign against. Yesterday, Diane James told me about how she is confident about postal voters. She also said that 3 out of 5 people she's spoken to in the street have promised that they will vote UKIP. She is confident about the election and members will be out canvassing for the next week.
Winchester University students made their own votes on the Eastleigh election this week. Our community correspondent, Jack Webb, conducted another opinion poll of 100 students around the university to examine how they would vote, if they could, in the Eastleigh by-election.
Last week, our exclusive poll showed Labour far ahead in Winchester. Liberal Democrats were second, Conservatives third, and UKIP were fourth. Now, after a week of campaigning, the Conservatives have surged ahead, almost doubling their support, overtaking the Liberal Democrats. Labour have slipped down a bit, and UKIP have gone up.
Students form only a small part of the electorate in Eastleigh, but if the trend continues, then it's very good news for the Conservatives. Jack Webb, Winchester News Online.
Still to come on Winol. Winchester's big chlamydia question. And a hospital fraudster faces jail time. Eastleigh Borough Council has approved plans to build 1,400 new homes near Botley Green. The development has become a controversial topic in the by-election. Nadine Forshaw looks at the subject in greater detail.
Hundreds of people turned up to hear the future of the Botley Green housing development on Monday, but many were left disappointed after the council approved the plans. Now 1,400 new homes will be built on farmland and a golf course near Botley. The Greenbelt development will also include a primary school and significant road changes. The controversial decision has become a key issue in the Eastleigh by-election. The Tory candidate says that the council has made the wrong decision.
Very, very sad day for Botley. I'm extremely disappointed, but I know the mettle of the people that were there, and I know the different pressure groups and the people that have been fighting for this, and I know that the fight will go on.
But the Liberal Democrats, who backed the plans, think that they will gain the respect of the voters as they make the hard decisions.
Generally speaking, what people really need in an election is certainty about the person they're electing and whether that person's going to do a good job standing up for them. The Conservative candidate was here this evening, but didn't utter a word. That isn't standing up for a community.
However, it may not be the end of the matter, as the local parish council will be putting in a legal challenge against the planning decision. Nadine Forshaw, Winchester News Online, Botley.
In crime news, a manager has lost the trust of the NHS after he stole over £50,000 from a local hospital to fund his gambling addiction. Paul Ball has been convicted of theft and sentenced at Winchester Crown Court. Christina Michaels shows us how the con was engineered.
Paul Ball from Derwent Close, Horndean, has been jailed for 18 months after fraud investigators found out he had stolen £56,000 from a Hampshire hospital. Here is how the scam happened. Ball was employed by the NHS Trust as the supervisor in the canteen of Basingstoke Hospital, where customers would spend money and buy food. The money in the till would be counted up at the end of the day and put into bags. The crucial step in Ball's plan was to make sure he took the money from the canteen to the cashier office on his own. The rule is that 2 employees should be present at all times. But Ball did not take all the bags to the cashier office. When he was out of view, he would take some of the bags of money to his car, taking steps to make sure he wasn't seen. The scam only worked because he took small amounts of money over a period of months. Fraud investigators took action after Ball ignored suspicions from workers that receipts were missing. Passing sentence, Judge Keith Cutler said, "It is very sad that you find yourself before me," and said that his actions have brought him nothing but loss and shame. Christina Michaels, Winchester News Online, Winchester.
Now, with all the sport, here is Harvey Taylor in the Sports Week studio.
Winchester University graduates return to face off against current students in a number of sporting events for the 21st Winton weekend. Kirsty Phillips went down to find out what it's all about.
6-1-7-5, yellow. Yellow.
Every year, Winchester University invites its graduates to reunite with their former sports societies and get the chance to meet the new team members over Winton weekend. Though it isn't only about seeing old faces, Winton weekend is held in memorial of former rugby player Steve Tomlinson, making rugby the main event of the weekend.
So all started in 1992 with Steve Tomlinson, who lost his life to cancer. The old rugby boys decided to have a game with the current team in memory of his life, and it's just snowballed from then. Like last 21 years, it's been getting bigger and better, and this year's no exception. It's always like it's a reunion first and foremost. So it's great for these guys to meet, the new guys on the team, and also like old friends, and like that's what it is primarily. Like it's to meet over, play some sport, and have some fun.
Team Winchester's rugby team played their best match of the season against the Alfies, winning 22-17. They were made runners-up of the Team of Winton Award at the SU ceremony, but the ladies' basketball team took the title.
Disappointing as a returning Wintonian to obviously lose a game we always come and expect to win, but obviously they put up a good fight today and had worked hard, played very quickly. We're a bunch of old boys now, so a little bit slower than we used to be back in the day.
But Winton doesn't stop at rugby. A large number of sports teams within the student union take part. Kirsty Phillips, Winchester News Online, Winchester.
Relegation threatened Basingstoke Town picked up a vital 2-1 win at home to Dorchester on Saturday. Manny Williams bagged a brace for the Stoke before Kiefer Moore nodded home a consolation goal for the visitors. Eastleigh maintained their promotion push with a 1-0 win over Chelmsford at the weekend. Jai Reeson netted his 12th goal of the season from the penalty spot after being brought down by Mark Haynes on the stroke of half-time. Haynes was then sent off after picking up a second yellow card in stoppage time. The win leaves Eastleigh just 2 points from the playoff places. And that's all from this week's sport. Back to Harry in the studio.
Winol can exclusively reveal that recorded cases of chlamydia in Winchester are on the rise. Chlamydia is commonly known as the silent sexually transmitted disease, despite 1 in 15 young people contracting it. Matt Spencer got himself checked out.
So, did the test hurt? Nah, you just pee in a pot.
Having once been a taboo, chlamydia is now on the rise in modern-day culture. Solent NHS Trust revealed to Winol that in the Winchester Gum Clinic at the Royal Hampshire County Hospital, chlamydia has risen by 22.5% over the last 3 years, with almost 400 cases in 2012.
On Valentine's Day, that time of the year when everybody needs some tender loving care, usually through a box of chocolates or a bouquet of roses. But Solent NHS Trust have a different idea of what might be given.
And that's why this Valentine's Day, the NHS Trust tried to raise awareness by breaking a Guinness World Record for the most chlamydia tests in 24 hours.
We used to get a lot of people saying, oh, what's chlamydia? Is it a flower? And that kind of thing. Well, we don't get that anymore. Most people know what chlamydia is. So I think that more people are coming into services because they are more aware, which is fantastic.
It's always a bit awkward if you're wandering into a clinic to go and do it, whereas everybody's in the same sort of situation, I guess.
Yeah, I've never been to a clinic to do it.
Was it easy enough to do?
Yeah, it's peeing in a pot.
It's not the hardest thing.
Taking the test may not be the hardest thing to do, but keeping it from spreading is the challenge Solent NHS is faced with. Matt Spencer, Winchester News Online, Winchester.
That's all from Winchester News Online this week. For a full list of candidates of the Eastleigh by-election, visit our award-winning website, www.winol.co.uk. Goodbye.